Anna walked into the living room, her mind already swirling with the thoughts of the day. It was a crisp autumn evening in Los Angeles, and the sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over the sleek, modern furniture in the room. The whole house had a cold, sterile feel to it, expensive but somehow empty. Her father, Robert, sat at the head of the large dining table, his back straight, eyes locked on the papers in front of him. He had the look of a man who always knew what he wanted and got it. Next to him, Linda, her mother, was flipping through a magazine, but her smile was tight, her eyes betraying a hint of tension. Anna felt it. Something was different tonight. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but the air was charged with a strange kind of expectation. Her stomach churned. Emily, her younger sister, sat across from her. Emily, the golden child, had always been the family's shining star, the one who never had to try too hard to be loved. Anna had always felt like the afterthought, the one who did everything by the book, worked harder than anyone but still seemed to be overlooked. And tonight that feeling was about to explode. "Anna," Robert said, his voice cutting through the silence. His eyes didn't leave the papers in front of him, but there was an edge to his tone that made her heart skip a beat. "We've made a decision." Anna's heart dropped. There was something in his voice that made her skin crawl. "I'm listening," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though the unease was starting to settle deep in her chest. Linda put down her magazine and smiled warmly, though Anna could see the tension behind the smile. "We've decided it's time for Emily to get the support she needs to really make something of herself." Anna glanced at her sister. Emily looked up from her phone, her eyes wide as if she had just been caught in a surprise. But there was something about her smile that didn't seem entirely innocent. Anna could see it now, a quiet pride, a knowing glimmer in her eyes, as if she was in on a secret that Anna wasn't privy to. Anna's pulse quickened. She knew what was coming next. Robert cleared his throat, finally lifting his eyes to meet Anna's. "We're giving Emily $20 million. It's time she took control of her future." The words hung in the air like a slap across Anna's face. For a moment, all Anna could do was stare, her mind racing. She couldn't breathe. Her stomach twisted in knots as her father's words echoed in her head. "Excuse me?" Anna said, her voice barely above a whisper, though the shock in her words was evident. "You're giving Emily $20 million? Linda's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Yes, we feel that she's ready for it. She needs a push, something to help her stand on her own." Anna blinked, the weight of what her mother had said settling over her like a thick fog. "But why?" She could barely get the words out. Her mind was spinning. She had worked tirelessly for years. She had sacrificed so much for this family. She'd been there for every birthday, every family gathering, every moment they needed her. And now they were handing Emily, who had always been the spoiled one, the one who took everything for granted, a fortune that Anna would never have. Emily's face twisted into an expression of mild shock, but Anna saw through it. The quiet satisfaction in her eyes was unmistakable. She didn't have to say a word. It was clear she knew exactly what was happening. Anna could feel the betrayal sink in deep, like a knife twisting in her gut. "You don't think I need anything?" Anna finally managed to say, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and hurt. "No," Robert said simply, his gaze hard and unwavering. "You've always been independent. You don't need handouts." The words stung more than Anna had ever imagined they could. Independent? She had been the one to put her life on hold to help them. Independent? She had made every sacrifice, every decision, always putting the family first. But they hadn't seen it. They never had. Anna stood up abruptly, the sound of the chair scraping against the floor making her flinch. She was suddenly aware of the pressure building in her chest, the suffocating sense of being ignored and overlooked. "Is that it?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Is this how it's always going to be? You reward the one who needs it least and forget about the one who's been here, every step of the way." Robert didn't answer. His eyes were already back on the papers in front of him. Linda gave her a quick, apologetic glance but said nothing. Anna turned to look at Emily, who was sitting there like the cat who got the cream. Anna's stomach churned as she saw the smug expression on her sister's face. Emily didn't have to try. She was the one who always got what she wanted. But not this time. Not anymore. "I'm glad you've made your decision," Anna said, her voice cold, betraying none of the turmoil inside her. "But you'll regret it." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, the door closing behind her with a finality that echoed through the empty halls of the house. As she walked out into the cool night air, Anna took a deep breath. The first real breath she'd taken all evening. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She didn't need their money. She didn't need their approval. But she would make sure they understood what it felt like to underestimate her. This was just the beginning. Anna stood in the cold darkness of the backyard, the crisp air biting at her skin. The mansion loomed behind her, its gleaming windows reflecting the dim light of the street lamps. She had always hated this house, always felt like a stranger in it, even though she'd spent her entire life here. The house was too big, too cold, and now it seemed to be filled with more secrets than she could count. As the night stretched on, she stood there for a long time, trying to calm the storm inside her. Her mind was racing with thoughts of what had just happened, of her parents' betrayal, of how they had handed everything over to Emily without a second thought. Why her? Why not me? Anna muttered to herself, clenching her fists at her sides. What have I done to deserve this? She had spent years quietly building her own life, carefully stepping out of the shadows of her family's success, working tirelessly to make her own mark. Yet, no matter how hard she worked, it seemed that Emily would always be the one who was showered with affection, the one who could do no wrong. Anna was done being the perfect daughter, the one who always did everything right. Now it was time to take a different approach. No more playing by the rules. No more being patient and understanding. It was time to turn the tables. The thought of it made her feel a sense of calm she hadn't felt in years. She knew she had to act, but the revenge needed to be carefully calculated. She wasn't like Emily, she didn't need the money. But she needed something else. She needed to show her parents and her sister exactly what it meant to take her for granted. The next few days were spent in absolute silence, as Anna began laying out her plan. Every move, every step was calculated. She wasn't going to let her emotions drive her decisions. She would be calm. She would be methodical. First, she started with the one thing her parents cared about: money. Her father had worked tirelessly to build a fortune, and he valued it more than anything else in this world. Anna knew this was her opening. She didn't need to take the $20 million, she had enough money of her own, but what she could take from them was far more valuable: their reputation. And Emily, who had been handed the money without earning a cent, would become her first target. Anna began by gathering evidence. She started looking into Emily's life, digging up things that were buried deep beneath the surface. She knew Emily wasn't the saint her parents made her out to be. She had her flaws, and Anna was determined to expose them. Anna didn't just want revenge, she wanted them to see the truth. She wanted them to realize that everything they had given Emily was undeserved. Emily was the weak link, the one who had been pampered, who had never faced the harsh reality of failure. And Anna was going to make sure they saw it all. It wasn't long before Anna started to uncover the cracks in Emily's perfect life. There were whispers of shady business deals she had been involved in, a series of impulsive decisions that had nearly cost her everything, and a string of failed relationships that Anna knew her parents had ignored. But that wasn't all. Anna knew Emily's love for the spotlight and her obsession with appearances would be her downfall. Emily had always tried to live the perfect life on Instagram, posting pictures of her luxurious lifestyle, the perfect boyfriend, the fancy vacations. But it was all a lie. Anna knew exactly how to expose that lie, and she was going to do it in the most public way possible. She gathered the evidence, saved the screenshots, and carefully crafted her next move. The pieces were falling into place. In the midst of all this, Anna began to take control of her own life in a way she never had before. She no longer cared about trying to earn her parents' approval. What mattered now was showing them that she could do things on her own terms, that she didn't need their money or their affection. She would prove to them, and to Emily, that she was the one they should have been focused on all along. Days turned into weeks, and as Anna meticulously put the final touches on her plan, she found herself thinking less about revenge and more about the satisfaction of seeing her parents' faces when they realized what she had done. They thought Emily was the golden child, the one who deserved everything. But soon they would see the truth. And it would hit them harder than anything Anna had ever experienced. This wasn't just about money or status, it was about pride. It was about making sure they never took her for granted again. The moment was coming, and Anna could feel the tension building inside her. It wasn't just about exposing Emily's lies. It was about reminding her parents that their decisions had consequences. They had chosen Emily over her, but Anna wasn't going to let them forget the cost of that choice. She was ready. It was time to let everything fall into place. The days were now blending together, but Anna's mind never stopped. She was constantly strategizing, planning her next move. Every conversation she had, every encounter with her parents, felt like a piece of the puzzle falling into place. She was playing the long game, and it wasn't just about showing them she was capable. It was about making sure they understood that their decisions had consequences. It was time to make the first move. Anna sat in her small, dimly lit office in the corner of the house, far away from the cold grandeur of the mansion. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with her favorite reads, a contrast to the sterile environment she had grown up in. Here she felt in control, like she could breathe. It was her sanctuary, a place where her thoughts could flow freely. And right now, her thoughts were focused entirely on Emily. She had spent days gathering evidence. Every social media post, every text message, every whispered secret she could find. Anna knew that Emily was careless, that her need for approval and admiration often led her to make reckless decisions. Emily wanted to be seen as perfect, but Anna knew better. Perfection was a mask, and Anna had always been good at seeing through masks. It was a quiet evening, and Anna's fingers hovered over her laptop as she prepared to send the first email. She had written it and rewritten it, careful to craft the perfect tone. It wasn't too aggressive, but it was enough to catch Emily off guard. The evidence she had collected would do most of the work. Anna just needed to nudge the pieces into place. With a deep breath, she clicked send. The email was simple, a few attachments, some carefully chosen words. Emily had been bragging on Instagram about a new business venture, a clothing line that Anna knew had been founded on shady deals and questionable investments. She wasn't sure if Emily even knew the full extent of the situation, but Anna was going to make sure she did. The email was her way of planting the seed of doubt, of making Emily question everything she thought she knew. But that wasn't all. Anna had another card to play, a very personal one. Emily had always been enamored with her image, obsessed with her online persona. She would post pictures of her perfect life, the glamorous vacations, the parties, the luxurious shopping trips. But Anna knew better. She knew the truth behind those pictures, the lies and exaggerations that Emily used to hide her insecurities. Anna knew about the affair Emily had been having with a wealthy investor, a man who had helped her launch the clothing line. The affair had been sloppy, full of poor choices and risky behavior. Emily had kept it hidden for as long as possible, but Anna had the evidence now, and it was time to expose it. Anna wasn't doing this out of spite. She was doing it because she knew Emily had taken everything for granted. Emily's life had been handed to her, with no real effort on her part. Now, it was Anna's turn to remind her that the world didn't always work that way. It was a dangerous game she was playing, but Anna had no intention of backing down. This wasn't just about humiliating Emily, it was about making sure her parents understood the depth of their mistake. They had made Emily the golden child, the one who would always be protected, but they had forgotten about Anna, the one who had always been the responsible one, the strong one. But Anna wasn't going to be ignored anymore. She had a plan, and it was starting to take shape. The next morning, Anna watched from the window of her office as Emily walked out of the front door of the mansion, her phone pressed to her ear as always. Anna couldn't help but smirk. Emily had no idea what was coming. She could feel the tension building. She was playing her cards carefully, each move taking her closer to the moment when everything would come crashing down. The email would force Emily to confront the lies she had been living, and it would force her to face the consequences of her actions. Anna knew it wasn't going to be easy. There would be pushback, denial, and possibly even anger. But none of that mattered. Anna was determined to make her parents see the truth, to show them that their blind favoritism had come at a cost. Emily would learn the hard way what it felt like to be held accountable for her actions. And Anna? Well, Anna would prove to everyone that she was the one who had been underestimated all along. But as Anna sat back in her chair, a sense of calm washed over her. This was just the beginning. The first move had been made, and there was no turning back now. The following days felt like a slow burn. Anna had made her move, and now the pieces of the puzzle were slowly starting to fall into place. She had never been more focused, never been more driven. There was a sense of satisfaction that came with taking control of her life, but also a quiet tension that lingered in the air, as if she were walking a tightrope. Anna knew Emily would react. She always did. But what she didn't expect was how quickly Emily's world would begin to crumble. The first sign of trouble came when Emily called her. Anna had expected the confrontation, but she hadn't expected it to happen so soon. She could hear the panic in her sister's voice, the desperate attempt to mask her fear behind a wall of arrogance. "Anna, what the hell is this?" Emily's voice crackled through the phone. "Did you really send that email? You're seriously trying to ruin me?" Anna didn't answer right away. She let the silence linger for a moment, savoring it. It felt almost like victory. "I didn't ruin anything," Anna said coolly. "You've been lying to everyone, Emily. I just gave them a glimpse of the truth." "You're crazy," Emily snapped, her voice rising. You don't know what you're talking about. This is just some sick joke. Anna could almost hear the panic building in her sister's voice. The lies were falling apart and Emily had no idea how to handle it. The images of her perfect life, the carefully curated posts on social media, were all coming undone. You should have thought about that before you started pretending to be someone you're not, Anna replied. It's not my fault you thought you could get away with it. I didn't do anything wrong. Emily shouted. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of me. Anna felt her heart tighten at the accusation. She had always been the one who played by the rules, who worked hard and never asked for anything in return. But to Emily that had always been a weakness. She couldn't understand why Anna didn't crave the same attention, the same validation. And that, Anna realized, was where everything had gone wrong. Emily had taken everything for granted, assuming that she would always be given what she wanted. You really think this is about jealousy? Anna's voice was calm, almost too calm. This isn't about that. This is about accountability. You've been living in a fantasy world, Emily. And now it's time for you to face the consequences. The line went silent for a moment, and Anna could almost hear Emily's mind racing, trying to come up with a way to fix things, to put the pieces of her carefully constructed life back together. You're ruining everything, Emily said finally, her voice trembling. You're going to destroy our family. Your actions have already done that, Anna replied. I'm just making sure you understand that. And just like that, the conversation was over. Emily had nothing left to say. Anna could almost hear her sister's breath hitch as she hung up the phone, the weight of the truth settling in. It wasn't long after that when the calls started coming in. First, it was friends, then business associates, all questioning Emily's integrity, her business dealings, and the authenticity of her brand. Anna had known it wouldn't take long for the cracks to show. Emily was used to living in a bubble, surrounded by people who were too scared to question her. But now, with the truth starting to spill out, Emily was being forced to confront her lies in front of everyone. Anna watched all of this unfold with a detached sense of satisfaction. She wasn't reveling in Emily's misery, but she knew this was necessary. Emily had to learn the hard way that actions had consequences. She couldn't keep living her life as if nothing mattered, as if she could have it all without facing any repercussions. And then the real blow came. Anna had known that Emily's affair with the wealthy investor had been a key part of her rise to fame, but she hadn't realized just how far Emily had gone to keep it hidden. The man who had been helping her launch her clothing line had cut ties with her, fast. Word had spread and soon the media caught wind of it. It wasn't just the affair that was scandalous, it was the fact that Emily had been using her personal relationships to further her business interests, something her parents had never even suspected. Suddenly, Emily wasn't the golden child anymore. She was the scandal waiting to happen. And Anna? Well, Anna was the one who had quietly watched it all unfold, carefully orchestrating the exposure, step by step. Anna knew the media frenzy would die down eventually, but the damage would linger. Emily's reputation, once pristine, was now permanently tarnished. And the best part? Their parents had no idea. They had been too blinded by their favoritism, too focused on Emily's charm and beauty to see the cracks in the facade. It didn't matter how much they loved her, they would never be able to ignore what had happened. The truth was out and there was no going back. As Anna watched the headlines flash across the screen, she felt a strange sense of relief. This wasn't just about Emily's downfall, it was about making sure her parents understood the price of their favoritism. It was about showing them that they couldn't treat her like an afterthought and expect her to stay silent forever. The plan was working. The fallout was swift, brutal, and far-reaching. Anna had expected some resistance, but not on this scale. Her parents were blindsided, and for the first time in their lives, they found themselves scrambling to maintain control over their carefully curated world. Robert, ever the businessman, tried to spin the situation to his advantage. He was used to handling PR disasters, but this was different. Emily's reputation had been shredded, and the public had no patience for the lies that had been exposed. The investors were pulling out, the press was relentless, and the social media storm showed no signs of letting up. Anna watched from the sidelines, her mind sharp, her emotions controlled. She had never intended for things to spiral out of control like this, but once the truth was out, there was no going back. Emily had been living a lie and now the whole world knew it. Anna, what have you done? Robert's voice boomed from the other side of the phone, his frustration palpable. This is a disaster. You've ruined your sister's life. She trusted you. Anna's lips curled into a cold smile, though her father couldn't see it. No, Dad. Emily ruined her own life. I just made sure the truth came out. Don't talk to me like that, he snapped. You've betrayed the family. You've humiliated us. This is going to affect everything, our business, our relationships, our reputation. You've cost us everything. Anna didn't flinch. She had heard it all before. Their threats, their pleas, their constant attempts to guilt her into submission. But this time Anna wasn't backing down. She was done being the obedient daughter, the one who always followed the rules. They had made their choice and now she was going to make them regret it. I didn't betray anyone, Anna said quietly, her voice calm. I just gave everyone a chance to see Emily for who she really is. You should be thanking me, not accusing me. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and for a moment, Anna wondered if her father was even going to respond. But then his voice came through low and angry. You think you're better than her, don't you? You think you deserve everything that she has. But you'll never be able to take her place. You'll always be the second choice. The words hit Anna like a punch to the gut. She had heard them before from the moment she could remember. Emily had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, while Anna had been relegated to the background. It didn't matter how hard she worked, how much she sacrificed, they had always chosen Emily over her. But this time it was different. This time Anna was in control. This time she was the one making the decisions. I don't need to take her place, Anna said, her voice cold and steady. I've never wanted to. But I will make sure you understand that your decisions have consequences. The line went dead. Anna sat back in her chair, staring at the screen in front of her. The weight of the situation wasn't lost on her. She had known this moment would come, the moment when everything would fall apart. But now that it was here, she realized something important. She didn't regret it. Not for a second. Emily had tried to play the game by her own rules, but she had forgotten one important thing: there were always consequences. And now, those consequences were catching up with her. The phone buzzed on the desk in front of Anna, breaking her thoughts. It was a message from Emily. You've ruined everything. I will never forgive you for this. Mom and Dad will never forgive you either. Anna stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the screen. The familiar sting of guilt threatened to rise, but she quickly shut it down. She couldn't afford to feel sorry. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. I'm not the one who needs forgiveness, she typed back. But you will regret thinking you could get away with it. She hit send and leaned back in her chair. She didn't know how much longer she could keep this up, how much longer she could keep the facade of calm, but she knew one thing for sure: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Her parents were furious, but they still didn't fully understand the scope of what had happened. They didn't understand how deep the betrayal ran, how much Anna had sacrificed for them. They thought they could sweep it under the rug, pretend it never happened, but Anna wasn't going to let them forget. She wasn't going to let Emily forget either. Emily would be forced to face the consequences of her actions, whether she liked it or not. As the days passed, Anna kept a low profile, staying out of the spotlight while Emily continued to spiral. The media coverage grew worse, and Emily's business continued to crumble under the weight of her lies. Anna knew it was only a matter of time before her parents would be forced to acknowledge the truth, but until then she was going to keep playing her part. She would remain calm, collected, and in control, exactly how they had always expected her to be. But there was one thing they hadn't counted on. Anna was no longer playing by their rules. She was playing by her own. And now that she had their attention, she was going to make sure they understood what it felt like to take her for granted. Days turned into weeks, and the storm Anna had unleashed only seemed to intensify. The media frenzy around Emily's scandal showed no signs of letting up. The social media posts were relentless, dissecting every flaw, every mistake, every bad decision. Emily's once glamorous life was now a public spectacle. The bubble she had lived in was bursting, and Anna had a front-row seat to the destruction. But Anna wasn't basking in her sister's misery. No, the satisfaction wasn't in the fall. It was in the slow, painful unraveling that Emily couldn't escape. And as for her parents, well, they were beginning to understand that their decisions had more weight than they ever imagined. One evening, as Anna sat at her desk reviewing some of the latest headlines, her phone buzzed. It was from Robert, her father. We need to talk. Come to the house now. The urgency in his message sent a chill through her. She hadn't spoken to him in days. Anna had kept her distance, continuing with her plans, watching everything fall into place. But now it seemed her father wanted answers. Or perhaps he wanted to find a way to shift the blame. Either way, she wasn't worried. She put down the phone and stood up, taking a long breath before heading out of her office. She knew this meeting wasn't going to be easy, but it had to happen. The time for playing nice was over. The house felt eerily quiet when she arrived. The soft glow of the chandelier in the entryway reflected off the marble floors, but there was no warmth in the atmosphere. It was sterile, cold like it had always been. Anna walked into the living room where Robert and Linda were already seated, waiting. Her father's face was grim, his hands clenched tightly together. Her mother sat beside him, her face drawn, the faintest trace of worry in her eyes. Anna could tell this wasn't a casual conversation. It was a reckoning. "Anna," Robert began, his voice low but firm, "we need to talk about what you've done." Anna took a seat across from them, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp. She wasn't nervous. She had done nothing wrong. "What I've done?" she repeated, her voice even. "What exactly is it that you think I've done?" "You've destroyed Emily," Robert said, his tone sharp, but there was a crack of guilt underneath. "You've exposed her for something she's not. You've ruined her career. You've torn apart our family." Anna stayed silent, allowing him to speak. She wasn't going to let him shift the blame. They had made their choice. They had chosen Emily. Now they had to deal with the consequences. "She was living a lie," Anna said calmly. "She's been lying to everyone, to you, to herself. And you," she paused, looking directly at her father, "you've been blind to it." "That's not true," Linda interjected, her voice tight with emotion. "Emily is our daughter. She's made mistakes, but she didn't deserve this." Anna's jaw tightened. She had always known her mother would side with Emily. Linda had never seen the truth. She had always turned a blind eye to Emily's flaws, to her mistakes, and now it was too late. "Mom, you've always believed the image Emily created. But it's not real. She's not perfect. She's been using people to get ahead. And you didn't see it." Robert leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "And what about you, Anna? What about your role in all of this? You think you're above it all, that you can just expose the family's secrets and walk away scot-free? You've hurt everyone around you." Anna's heart pounded. She had heard this before, the guilt, the manipulation. They were trying to make her feel responsible for their mistakes. But she wasn't going to let them do that anymore. "Don't act like I'm the one who caused this. You've always treated me like I didn't matter, like I wasn't good enough. Emily got everything handed to her on a silver platter, and now you're angry because I finally made you see what you've been ignoring for years." There was a long silence, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Robert sat back in his chair, his face darkening. "You don't get it, Anna? You've taken it too far. We've worked our entire lives to build this family, this legacy. And now, because of you, it's all falling apart." "I didn't make this happen," Anna said, her voice steady. "You did. You made the decision to favor Emily over me, and now you're seeing the consequences. You made your choice and you've lost." Her father's face twisted in anger. "You think you've won, don't you? You think you've gotten the better of Emily and us. But you've lost, Anna. You've lost everything." Anna shook her head. "No, Dad. I've gained everything. I've gained my own life, my own identity. And I'm finally free from your shadow." Robert stood up abruptly, slamming his hand on the table. "You've always been difficult, Anna. But now you've gone too far." Anna remained calm, standing her ground. "I'm not the one who went too far. You've been blind for too long. It's time for you to face the truth." Anna turned to leave, but before she could walk out of the room, Robert's voice stopped her. "We'll never be the same again, Anna," he said, his voice hollow. Anna paused at the door, but she didn't look back. "Maybe that's a good thing," she muttered, and then she walked out of the room, her steps sure and unwavering. The battle was far from over. But Anna knew that the seeds had been planted. Her parents couldn't ignore the truth anymore, and neither could Emily. Anna had shown them what it meant to be underestimated. And now there was no turning back. Anna hadn't expected her parents to accept what had happened, not yet. The weight of the truth was still too heavy for them to bear, and Emily's fall from grace was still too fresh. But something had shifted. She could feel it in the air when she returned to the house the following day. It was almost as if a quiet war was brewing within the walls of the mansion. The perfect image her parents had spent years crafting was in shambles, and no amount of wealth or influence could undo the damage. The family that had once stood so firmly united was now fractured, each member retreating into their own pain, their own guilt. Anna knew that things were about to get much worse before they got better, but she was ready. She had no intention of backing down now. It wasn't just about Emily anymore, it was about showing her parents exactly what it felt like to be taken for granted. It was about making them understand the true cost of their choices. She wasn't their second choice anymore, and she wasn't going to pretend she didn't care. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Emily. "You think you've won? You've only made everything worse. You've destroyed our family. You're the one who should be ashamed of yourself. Anna stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the screen. For a moment she considered ignoring it. But she couldn't let Emily have the last word, not this time. You ruined everything yourself, Emily. You just didn't think anyone would call you out. She hit send knowing it would escalate things. But at this point there was no turning back. The confrontation had been building for days, and now Anna felt like she was standing at the edge of the precipice, waiting for the inevitable fallout. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about making them understand. Making them feel what she had felt all these years, the loneliness, the betrayal, the feeling of being invisible. That afternoon Robert called her again. His voice, though still angry, was laced with something else, desperation. We need to meet, he said. Now. Anna took a deep breath. She knew what this was. This was the moment her parents had been dreading, the moment when they would be forced to acknowledge that everything they had worked so hard to build was crumbling at their feet. The conversation was going to be brutal, but Anna was ready. When she arrived at the house, Robert and Linda were already sitting in the same spot where they had confronted her the night before. This time they were silent, waiting for her to speak first. Anna walked into the room, standing tall, her posture straight and unwavering. Do you understand what you've done? Robert finally asked, his voice strained. Do you understand that you've cost us everything? We've lost everything, our reputation, our friends, our business deals. Emily is a wreck. Your mother can't even leave the house without being bombarded with questions. And all of this, it's because of you. Anna stood silently for a moment, letting her father's words sink in. She wasn't going to let him manipulate her again. Not this time. You're right, she said, her voice low but steady. You've lost everything. But that's the price of playing favorites, of ignoring the truth. You were so focused on Emily's image, on protecting her, that you never saw me. You never saw the person I was becoming. And now you're paying the price for it. Linda's face crumpled in frustration. You think you're better than us, Anna? You think you're the only one who's suffered? We've given you everything, and this is how you repay us. Anna's heart hardened. She had been waiting for this moment, the moment when they would try to make her feel guilty for everything they had done. But this time she wasn't going to fall for it. You gave me everything you wanted to give me, Anna said, her voice cold. But you never gave me what I needed. Love, attention, acknowledgement. You gave all that to Emily, and you expect me to just sit back and accept it? Robert's face was reddening now, his anger bubbling over. You don't get it, Anna? You've torn us apart. We're not the same family we were. You've ruined us. No, you ruined us, Anna replied, her voice sharp. You chose her. And you abandoned me. I wasn't asking for your money, your approval, or your attention. I just wanted to be seen. Robert and Linda were silent, the weight of her words hanging between them. It was clear that they had never truly understood how deep Anna's pain had run. They had never understood the cost of their favoritism until it was too late. I'm done, Anna said quietly, her tone final. I'm done trying to earn your love. I don't need it anymore. I built my own life. I'm not your backup plan. And I'm not going to pretend I am. She turned to walk out of the room, but Robert's voice stopped her. You've made a mistake, Anna, he said, his voice broken. You're losing your family. Anna stopped but didn't turn around. You lost me the moment you chose her over me. I didn't make that decision. You did. And with that she walked out of the room. The silence that followed Anna's departure from the family home felt like a weight pressing down on her chest. But she didn't feel the crushing burden she might have once expected. Instead, it was a strange calm that enveloped her. It wasn't peace, no, not yet, but it was the satisfaction of knowing that she had done everything she needed to do to make her parents and sister understand. Finally, they would know what it felt like to take her for granted. Days turned into weeks, and Anna kept a careful distance from her family. She didn't respond to the constant calls and messages from her mother and father. She didn't even open Emily's texts anymore. There was nothing left to say. She had said everything she needed to say, and it had hit harder than she could have imagined. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It never truly had been. Revenge was too small a word for what Anna had done. This was about reclaiming her life, about making sure her parents knew that they couldn't dictate her future or ignore her worth. They had been so caught up in their perfect image, in the daughter they had chosen to elevate, that they had forgotten about her. The one who had always been there, the one who had always given more than she ever took. And now it was her turn to take. As Anna sat in her apartment, away from the chaos in the mansion, she felt a strange sense of closure. She had done what she needed to do, and the fallout, as brutal as it had been, was proof that her plan had worked. Emily was no longer the golden child. Her business deals were unraveling, her reputation was shattered, and her once flawless social media image had turned into a public disaster. Anna didn't revel in her sister's downfall, it was more like a necessary consequence, a reminder that no one could get away with the lies they told themselves and others. Then one evening the phone rang. It was her mother. Anna hesitated for a moment, the conflict rising inside her. Should she answer? Could she finally listen? She hit the answer button. Anna, Linda's voice cracked, and for the first time, it wasn't the usual tone of criticism or manipulation. It was something more raw, something that Anna hadn't expected: regret. I know I can't take back what's happened. But, we've been talking. Your father and I, we know we've failed you. We've been blind. I've been blind. The word sent a cold shiver down Anna's spine. Linda had never admitted anything like this before. She had always been so sure of herself, so certain of her choices. The guilt in her mother's voice was real. I was wrong, Linda continued. You've always been here, giving everything for this family. And I never saw it. We never saw it. We treated you like you didn't matter, like Emily was the only one who deserved our love. I'm so sorry, Anna. Anna's grip tightened on the phone. She hadn't expected an apology. She had spent so many years hoping for one, but now she wasn't sure it meant anything anymore. It was too little too late. I don't need your apology, Anna said, her voice quiet but firm. You've made your choices and I've made mine. I don't want to hear excuses. I'm done waiting for you to notice me. There was silence on the other end of the line. For a long time neither of them spoke. Anna, please, your father, we want to make things right. We can't lose you. Anna let out a deep sigh. It's not about losing me. It's about realizing you've already lost me. You don't get to choose who I am or how I live. I'm not here to fix this broken family. I'm here to live my life on my own terms. Linda was quiet again. Anna could feel the weight of the silence, but she wasn't backing down. She had said what needed to be said. I think you've learned a hard lesson, Anna added, her tone softer now but still resolute. And maybe one day you'll understand why I did what I did. But that's not my problem anymore. I've got my own life to live. After a long pause, Linda whispered, I hope one day you'll come back to us. Anna didn't answer right away. She didn't know what the future would hold, and she wasn't about to make any promises. Not now. Not when she had finally found the freedom she had been craving for so long. I'll always be your daughter, Anna said, her voice steady, but that doesn't mean I owe you anything. She hung up the phone, and for the first time in years, Anna felt a sense of relief wash over her. The tension that had been building inside her for so long was finally gone. She had won. Not because Emily had lost, not because her parents were now scrambling to pick up the pieces of their broken family, but because Anna had taken control of her own destiny. She had made her mark and she had done it on her own terms. The road ahead wasn't easy, but Anna didn't need the approval of her family anymore. She had learned to stand on her own, to be her own person, without the need for anyone else's validation. She wasn't the second choice anymore. She was the only choice, and she was finally free.